Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mike and I'm going to be working on my Roush Raptor again today. This is a 2014 Roush Raptor and I'm going to be installing this Ford Motor Company fuse relocation kit. There's this infamous fuse number 27 for the fuel relay power that is going to be put in another location with a bigger fuse because the current one is known to melt if it gets too much current. So we're going to be using a new wire that comes with the kit and going to be relocating it to another position with a bigger fuse that comes in the kit. Let's take a look at the kit and then let's get started doing the actual work of replacing the fuse and moving it. Here's the kit from Ford Motor Company. Let's take a look at what's inside. So we have a new wire that is already kind of pre-cut for us. We have this spade that's going to be stuck into the new location in the fuse box. We have two separate pieces for shrink tubing. We have a new 20 amp fuse. We have two stickers for the Fuse 70 fuel pump relay power. This is going to be placed inside of the fuse box to designate where the new fuse is going to be located. And then finally, we have instructions. I believe these are in color. And that's it. So now we've got the hood open and here you can see the fuse box. Just going to open it up here with the two tabs and let's take a look at the fuse 27 and where we're going to be putting the new fuse. So the first thing we're going to do is check for fuse 27. So if I take a look here on the chart, 27, and that corresponds to this second fuse here. This 20 amp fuse is tiny. We're going to be relocating it from this, cutting the wire and relocating that wire to a bigger fuse here, which is spot number 70, I believe here, which is right here. So we're going to take out the fuse 27. We're going to check to make sure that it's not melted. So it looks like the fuse was fine, there's nothing wrong with the fuse, and the fuse location is fine, there's nothing melted. And so we're going to be relocating it to this new spot and using a bigger 20 amp fuse. The first thing we're going to do is take off the positive terminal up to the battery, and then once we have that, we're actually going to be also eventually taking off these two pieces of wire that connect to the fuse box. So I'm going to have Jessica here go ahead and unscrew the battery terminal. Jessica's already being irresponsible. Alright, so now to prevent it from arcing, we're going to place something between it. So here we have a piece of rubber, so we're just going to leave it right there. Next, we're going to be detaching this nut here inside of the fuse box, and that should allow us to remove the two cables that are attached to the fuse box. We've already disconnected the main battery terminal, so when we are removing this, there should be no risk of this arcing now, so we are going to now remove this nut using a 10mm socket. So first I'm going to take this one off, which has a green line on it, and then I'm going to take this one off. So now I'm just going to put these out of the way. Now you wouldn't be able to do this if you had the terminal connected because you might arc. If you're not going to remove the positive terminal, then you have to make sure that these aren't touching each other or anything else, so you may want to wrap that in something like painter's tape or something that will not allow it to arc. So there's this wire harness that goes across, and there's actually a kind of a white plastic bolt that's like holding this wire harness in place. I'm going to be using this to pop it out. Yeah, this broke off. We're gonna go around this fuse box, and there are clips that we need to detach. So these clips have this tiny little black flap that you gotta pull forward. And I'm going to just kind of lift on the top of the box to keep some pressure on it. Alright, now we need to do the same on the rear. Alright, so we have two of the same clips here. Alright, so those are unclipped. And we're going to need to get to the next step, which is to open up the fuse box itself. And there's some extra clips for that we're going to unclip now. It's easier if you keep tension on it. So what I'm noticing is once you have these clips, these smaller clips unclipped like that, then it's better to pull up on the upper part of this box and start pushing down on the actual clip. That way it kind of starts separating. It's this, you have to get this these two slip it out of this metal bracket. Once you have that out, then you are really able to start turning this a little bit better. It's like a thicker blue wire with a red line. That's the only one that we have to cut, and then that is going up towards the fuse 27 location. So we're going to be cutting it here. What is it, a 3/4 of an inch out? I'm going to cut it, and then the rest of it we're going to try to fish out so that we have a little bit more room to be able to solder it. Now we're going to try to shrink the shrink tube on top of the short little piece of wire that we cut earlier, and we're going to be using a heat gun for that. Can you maybe start squishing the tip together?
Yep. That's all you're really trying to do, is make sure that the end is covered.
Here's our new piece. So here's my new wire, and I've already taken the end off of it. Now this is pretty long, and if you look at the instructions, it basically wraps this much of it onto the new wire, and then it kind of bends it over, and I'll show you that here after we get it all done. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just twist this a little bit right? And now we're going to cut off the sheathing off of this other wire for about half of this length. Right. So now for this wire, I'm going to twist this as well. And now I'm going to overlap about half of this, like so. I have half of it now twisted, and now the other half I'm going to bend forward like this. And then now I'm going to solder this whole thing. So from the left, from the top row here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's the 8th slot. And that's where we're inserting our spade now. Now we're ready basically to put the box back together. Just make sure all the wires are tucked in before you clamp everything down. But in the back here, there's these two metal brackets that we're gonna slide this plastic piece over and this one. And then the front has two and the kind of closer together. So I'm gonna start with the back. I'm gonna lift this up over here and there. And then we're going to come to the front here. Here are those two metal brackets there. And we're going to slide these over on top of that. And while we're doing this, be mindful of all the cables. Make sure they're all tucked in. And then you have these other clips as well. Make sure those are all on the outside of the box as well as we push down on this. Since the white plastic fastener broke, I'm just going to be using a zip tie to secure this cable. Now there's still a little hole I can feed this through, and then I'm going to loop it around. Tight, and then we'll clip off the excess. So now we're ready to put the new fuse in. Here we can actually see the spade poking through. So now we're going to be putting in the new fuse in fuse spot 70. So now we have to find a place where we can put the new label. Since we have two, we're going to be putting one into the instruction manual, and the other one we're going to stick right here. I'm ready to reattach these two cables. There we go. And the other one. Okay. Put it back on. And 10mm. And now we're ready to shut this. Let's take this off for just a second. $8mm socket. I'm just holding it down so that it doesn't slip up as I'm tightening it. So we just finished the relocation of fuse 27, which used to be right here. I had a small 20 amp fuse, and now it's rewired to this location, which is fuse 70 with a bigger 20 amp fuse. And we also installed a sticker here reminding us the fuse 70 is now the fuel pump relay power, and that completes our installation.